Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on cloud storage reality check. Thank you so much for joining. First, a quick household message. Whenever you have any questions, any remarks, any feedback, something you like, something you don't like, please send your message in the message board, and then I'll be sure to answer the questions together with Ryan. All right, let's get this started. So first, a quick reality check on cloud services and cloud storage in general. I think it's safe to say that companies are increasingly dependent on cloud services. And we did this research, and 67% of the people that have answered said that without cloud services, their operations will grind to a halt. And another 64% said that they feel forced to use cloud services because it's the only way that they can operate their business. And 53% said they feel at the mercy of those cloud services regarding contracts, pricing, sovereignty, terms, and this makes it very difficult to get to certain business needs. And I think this is the most critical part. We all have to use cloud services. We all have to use these infrastructures, but I mean, we just have to comply with whatever they're doing, whatever they're saying, and the terms they set. And in this webinar, we will focus more on the myths regarding data sovereignty, myths regarding cloud storage and cloud services in general. So let's dive into it. Myth number one: if data is stored in European data centers, it's automatically sovereign. And sovereign, I think, is the most used word already in IT in 2026. So let's take a look at the first myth. Sovereignty is a question of control, not geography. So let me just dive into the word sovereignty at first. I would say sovereignty is all about who can technically access my data and who can legally access my data. And so I think it doesn't matter where your data is residing necessarily. It's more of who controls the data, who can access the data in various ways. This is what matters, and this is when the sovereignty part comes into play. So I've written this out in three different pieces. The first thing is encryption. So when it comes to accessing your data, I think the first important thing is that your data must be encrypted. And it mustn't only be encrypted, you should also know that you are the only person to own the key. Of course, it's nice when your cloud provider encrypts your data, but when they keep the key themselves, there is still a risk of other parties accessing that data for whatever reason. So make sure that your data is encrypted in various ways, and make sure that you are the only holder of the key. And this is something that we do. So with Impossible Cloud, when you store the data with us, we encrypt it and we make sure you are the only holder of the key. Then the second thing is transparent data flows. So make sure that your data is only flowing over EU hubs, so it's not being sent to US hubs or different locations. Make sure that your data is stored geographically in Europe, and that all of the data flows are in Europe as well. Now, if we come to the legal part, this is a very big part of data sovereignty, because when I check the news and when I go to trade shows, I see US hyperscalers and big US vendors claiming we offer sovereign cloud services. And I just can't wrap my head around on how they want to offer those sovereign cloud services. Why? Because it's a US company. And this is where the legal part comes into play. So again, it doesn't matter if your data is geographically in the EU, if the mothership of that company is in the US, they are still exposed to the Cloud Act. And the Cloud Act is a big risk. So what does the Cloud Act mean? The US government at any moment can access or can request for various reasons data that is either one, residing in the US, or either two, legally under the control of the US. And this is the part where the legal part comes into play. So if your data is either geographically or legally in US hands, it can always be requested or blocked. So sovereignty is a question of control and not geography. Then before I move to the next slide, I'm looking at the questions. Ryan, do you see if our attendees have asked any questions so far?
We don't have any questions yet, but feel free to drop any in the chat and we will gladly address them.
Awesome. Let's
Go
go
on.
forward. Myth number 2. Ooh, European solutions can't compete on performance. Let's take a look. So the first thing is, I think this is very, very outdated thinking. I mean, European solutions can definitely outperform in various ways US providers. And I think this is where the benefit of sovereignty comes into play as well, because sovereignty can actually make sure that you are more performant as well. And this is all because of latency. If your company resides in Europe and your data is in Europe as well, you don't send it over to the US. I mean, the shorter the distance, the lower the latency. So keeping your data in Europe improves not only the sovereignty part, but also the speed and user experience. And the way we do that as well is by providing a solid architecture. And we do that with multi-availability zones. So we all know multi-availability zones. It's making sure that you have different data centers within one single region. Now, why does that improve the performance? It makes sure that we decrease the RPO, so we have less data loss in a case that one of the data center has a failure. You still have another data center with all of your data in there, so you lose no data. You have full redundancy and resilience. And with the fast connection between those data centers, you have a much better performance. Another part is, and I think I've mentioned this in the previous slide as well, make sure that the data is flowing over European backbone only, so no US hubs. It will increase latency only, so make sure your data resides in Europe with direct networking and no rerouting through US or places from a far distance. So this is much more fast and much more secure. So the end, I would say sovereignty and performance is not a trade-off. They can really reinforce each other, make sure that everything is in Europe, close by with multi-availability zones, increasing performance and resilience. Ryan, any question on this part? Are we good?
It looks like we do actually have one. He's asking, can you guarantee if you are faster than the competition, and how do you measure your performance?
Well, that's a good one. I think, guaranteeing we can never, but we have experience. So we do a lot of independent benchmarking of our system. And in the majority of the cases, we're 2 times faster than competition. And the funny thing is, I get feedback from my customers, the last one was past week, is that we're up to 10 times faster than the competition. So, I mean, guaranteeing is difficult, but we see with benchmark, we see with testing, we see with feedback from the customers that we're super highly performant and that we're super fast. So, and to close that off, please don't believe me. Test it yourself and give me that feedback so I can repeat it in my next webinar. I would love to hear from you if you're experiencing that same high performance as other customers I'm talking to. Thank you for that question. I'm moving forward. Myth number 3. Cloud storage pricing doesn't matter. The differences are minimal anyway. I think this is a myth for sure. Let's take a look. So I think the biggest part of this myth is I mean, storage looks cheap at first glance, pricing all look the same, but the reality is very different. So this is also a bit where the vendor lock-in comes into play. So when you go online, you see these very, very low prices, but then when you look at the invoice itself, a lot of add-ons making it much more expensive. So let's just dive into that. Terabyte prices will often just debate, and all of the other attached costs make sure that you're actually paying more than, for example, with us. So a couple of add-ons that other parties might be charging to your bill are, for example, egress fees. So egress is downloading your data from the cloud, and mostly competition charges extra for that egress. And this is, like I said, also a risk in vendor lock-in. I mean, it's all fine. You can drop your data. You can always upload it, but then you want to take it out to either store it with a different vendor, and then you have to pay. So make sure that there's no egress fee, and we don't do that. We have one flat fee with no egress fees. Other fees that competition might be charging are API calls. So with every call that you do, actually, if you want to use the software, this is basically what I'm saying. If you want to use the software, competition might be charging you more. We don't do that. One flat fee per terabyte per month, no extra fees. Same with the fees between the availability zones. This is all hidden costs charging you more. And the last part is the retention period. This is something that I've seen with competition as well, is you store data during a month and you delete it during the same month, but you still get charged for a full month, and even in some cases up to 90 days. So you're actually paying for data that you have stored for 1 or 2 days and that you've immediately deleted, but you're still paying for 30 to 90 days. And this can highly increase your storage bill in the end. In Possible Cloud, when you store your data and you delete it, you are not paying for it anymore. And I think last week I had a conversation with a customer, and he told me that even only this fact, I could reduce his cloud bill with 20%. And I'm not even changing the flat fee. I'm only not charging him for deleted storage. And that's already making a huge difference. Ryan, we're at the end of the slide. Going back to you and the question board.
We do have another one. Somebody's asking, saying that they seem to see the same low prices that Impossible Cloud is offering at our competition. So how can we actually claim that we're cheaper?
Yeah, that's a very good one. You do see some of these low prices, and this is exactly like I said. At first glance, you see the same low prices, but I dare you, take a look at your latest invoice, and you will see all of those add-ons on your cloud bill adding up to the competition being much more expensive. So the way we guarantee that you pay the same low fee, you know exactly upfront what you're going to pay and no add-ons. Thank you for that question. Moving forward. Myth number 4 already. Cloud storage is a commodity. All providers deliver essentially the same thing. Let's take a look. Well, I mean, if you look at cloud storage as a bare metal disk spinning, then yes, it's not a myth. I mean, obviously, cloud storage is a lot more. It's the whole underlying technology that makes it something special. And we use S3 compatibility, and S3 in general is just a way of storing your data. It was started by Amazon, I would say, in 2006 or 2007. They started S3, and it's just an interface. But what really matters is the underlying technology, and this is really all of the features that you can add on to just storage, making it much more than a commodity. If you look, for example, at object lock, so we use object lock on our objects to ensure ransomware protection. So you can put an object lock on an object for a certain amount of days, and we will make sure with object lock that no one can either delete or alter, so change a certain object, and this prevents attackers from locking your data and making sure that you don't have to pay ransom on your data. Secondly, full S3 API compatibility. So this lets you easily integrate with your already existing tech stack. So it doesn't matter which backup software you're using. Let's just name a couple: Veeam, Acronis, Nakivo, MSP360, Synology, NAS, you name it, and we can integrate with it. So it's super easy to integrate, and it makes sure that you can use your already existing tech stack with Impossible Cloud. You don't have to change your full architecture. And then last but not least, always hot architecture. This also comes down a bit to the cost part. If you look at your latest invoice, there might be tiering. So we make sure at Impossible Cloud that you always have the hot storage. So it's always available, always fast, and always at hand when you need it, and you don't pay extra. So no tiering on that part. So the difference here is really on architecture, it's on security and performance, and Impossible Cloud with S3 compatibility, making it super easy to integrate with third parties. Then I'm not sure if there's a question, Ryan. Otherwise,
We do actually have one.
Awesome.
So somebody is asking that they're saying that they have a lot of data with another cloud storage provider. How easy is it to migrate that data to Impossible Cloud?
Yeah, got it. That's a good question. So I always recommend two migration paths. So the first one is you probably have a contract with your existing vendor. Let's say it runs for another 3 months. Then you're lucky. I mean, you still have 3 months runway of easily step-by-step migrating your data. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you migrating big bang. We're giving you the opportunity in some cases, and we can discuss that with a couple of 3 months, to just start doing your backups with Impossible Cloud, slowly decreasing the storage amount that you have with the competition, increasing the storage amount that you have with Impossible Cloud. And at the moment your existing contract is ending, we will make sure that all of your backups are landing with the right retention period in Impossible Cloud. So that's option one. Option two, if you don't have such a long runway, we do have various ways of copying buckets from the competition to Impossible Cloud, allowing you a big bang migration. But we need to define in every single case what is the best option here. But I think it's safe to say that we're here to help. So we will make sure that you never lose any data, of course, and you have a seamless experience in migrating from the competition to Impossible Cloud. Moving forward. Myth number 5, which is, I think, already the last myth of this webinar. Pure European providers aren't enterprise ready. And I think, let's dive into this myth that I've already touched a couple of parts. I mean, European sovereignty, no longer a compromise. It's the technology, it's the features and the operations that we can really make sure that Impossible Cloud meets with the highest standards. And if we look at highest standards, we're ISO 27001 certified. So this is a very high certifications, making sure that we are compliant and also helping your business to be compliant. And this is a huge milestone for us, being ISO certified, and also really helps us meeting these global standards that obviously the business wants. I mean, infrastructure part, I think I've already touched. Decentralized multi-availability zones, high performance, and a robust feature set. So this full S3 compatibility with object log versioning, easy API integrations, and no vendor lock-in. I mean, yes, EU providers are here, they're performant, and they're ready to take over the market. Then, conclusion. I think after discussing these 5 myths, it's safe to say that European cloud storage solution is no longer a myth. It's here, It's working. A lot of customers are using it. A lot of MSPs are using it. We're embedded in a lot of full service organizations as their storage solution. So it's really here. Let's not let the myths hinder your data sovereignty. I mean, everyone has data. Data is rapidly growing. So let's not make sure that this is a cost trap. Let's make sure that it's something you can benefit from. Let's make sure that European cloud storage is an added value for your business in terms of sovereignty, in terms of an extra immutable backup. And I mean, safe to say for EU customers, European solutions are better solutions. You can have the same or better performance that you do today with an additional added value, which is sovereignty. So let's make sure that we have now a solid EU identity and moved more to EU solutions at a low price. Then, last but not least, and I think I've said this already, don't believe me on everything I said about performance. Go and test it for yourself, and I would love to hear your feedback. So when you scan this QR code, you can test it for free. You can log in to our management console. Within our management console, you can easily control, bill all of the customers. You can connect this to API. You have full overview of everything related to your cloud storage and your backup. So test it and let us know how fast we really are, if it's 2 times faster, if it's 10 times faster. Looking forward to that feedback. Before I close off, I would love to go to some questions with you, Ryan. Do we have any?
Yes, it looks like we have one question about security. Somebody's interested in understanding more of the security features like encryption or identity management. Could you jump in on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. I mean, everything is fully encrypted at rest in transit, and we have a full identity management system. And like I said, encryption is client side, it's in transit and at rest. And when you look at identity management, it's fully validated by Veeam, for example. And of course, like I said, also regarding to the compliance with this ISO 27001 certification, you also make sure that we're fully compliant on that part. So thank you for that question as well. Again, thank you for joining this webinar. Follow-up is test and try. Would love to hear your feedback. And thank you so much and have a great day.